Hey guys, welcome to the Nick Bahe YouTube page. You know what you need to do. You need to subscribe, you need to ring the bell, you need to like the page, you need to leave a comment. I appreciate you.
I'm not ready.
Oh, he's ready.
Okay.
He's lying. He told me, he was like, let's just let it rip, man. Let's let it rip. Well, this is sort of my new thing now. To give you a second to get ready to do your thing, let me read these sponsors, okay? This pod is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. Stop by their showrooms in Omaha and Lincoln. And remember, you can always schedule a free in-home consultation. That's right, free. You can answer any questions you got. Go to PellaOmaha.com. That's PellaOmaha.com. Shouts out to Pella for my YouTube people. We got the Pella Yetis going. Love those people there. They're fantastic, okay? And this pod is brought to you by Shoot 360 Lincoln, world's most advanced basketball training facility. Coming to Lincoln mid-October. My brother and I are opening it together. As you can see the shirt, Unlock Your Game, one of their taglines. It's right there on the YouTube. Shoot 360 incorporates NBA level technology into the skill development process, but it's designed for all ages. 26 NBA facilities use this tech, including the Golden State Warriors. Bo, you know who Sean Livingston is. You three-time NBA champ, came off the bench for the Warriors. There is a Golden State Warriors Shoot 360. Sean Livingston called Shoot 360, quote, basketball Disneyland, which is like the most appropriate thing I've ever heard in my life. It's a basketball lover's paradise. They have arm machines, automatic rebounding machines, those big nets that are around the hoop. I don't want to assume people know those things. And it gets every shot and passes it back out to you. So you can get up a ton of shots in a short amount of time. You can get 300 plus shots up in 30 minutes. And there's a camera right above the backboard that's tracking every single shot you take and giving you real-time feedback after every shot, not just on make and miss, but your arc, your depth entering the rim, your alignment, where the shot entered the rim, your stats from different spots on the court. It's incredible, man. Real-time objective feedback, tons of great reps. You will truly unlock your game. All right. Go to shoot360.com/Lincoln and become a member today. Okay. The only thing you said to me before we got started is I got a Dion thought. Do I want to let you give do you want me to, do you want to go?
I like to let you roll.
Okay.
I like to let you roll, and then maybe if there's a time to squeeze it
interject,
or if you have something close to it. Yeah.
By the way, do you remember when I used to call girls when I was like in high school or seventh, 8th, 9th grade, before you would call them, I wouldn't write it out, but in my head, I was like, okay, I can talk. Like you always had to have like your 3 or 4 things that you were going to go to. Just calling and being like, hey.
I didn't know this. Hold on.
You didn't do this?
You wrote
I didn't write it down, but in my head, I was like.
You didn't script, but you made.
I mean, I kind of had
an outline.
In my head, I was like, okay, we can talk about what happened today at Burger King. That's one. She thinks that's funny. Then we can talk about. Oh, wow. Yeah, I would have those things because I never wanted to get caught like Ralph Wiggum when he walked Lisa Simpson home and said, so you like stuff? You don't want to be like Ralph, okay?
I choose you.
That's the episode. It's great. But no, so I would always, I was like,
why you were good. You were advanced for your age, so you were going for the girls early. I was always too.
I don't know about that.
I was too much of a
fun fact. My very first kiss, Bo Ruud, was like 3 feet from it. Like you were like right there staring at it. It's so ridiculous.
I was around the corner, just like, and he's done
peeping on it. Like I'm kissing it. I'm like, Bo Ruud is.
I am so proud right now. You know how you feel like sometimes it wasn't just you winning, but we were both winning.
Both won. We both had our first kiss that night.
We both won that
night. That's it. That is it. Oh God. How many people have had their best friend literally a couple feet from them?
Well, guess what? Who saw my first kiss? That guy!
Yeah.
Tom Pieper. No.
I do remember, I was further away, but I remember like seeing it. I remember seeing it. It was good. Right. We're both winning. You know, when you win, I win. When I win, you win.
That day too.
Okay, all right.
I won that day.
Like Tom Brady said in his speech for his jersey retirement at Gillette Stadium, at the culture was we cared about 2 things: each other and winning. With me and you,
that's about right.
It was about me and you. I cared about you. You cared about me.
And winning.
And by winning, it was getting your first kiss. Okay, there we go. Ridiculous. Sorry, people. Real quick, I wanted to start with this. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but because I think it's interesting. I know we talked a little bit about it on the recap pod, but we were texting about it. And I just think it's an interesting topic. Do you, especially because when you read all the articles after the game and listened to Big Noon Kickoff, those guys, Gus and Joel, everybody was people were kind of ripping Jeff Sims pretty good.
Yeah.
Chattel ripped him pretty good. Amy Just with the Lincoln Journal Star kind of ripped him pretty good. Do you find yourself, like, is it easier to criticize Jeff Sims because of NIL, because you see the Amigos commercials? I thought you had an interesting point in our like group chat talking about, you said these guys feel more like hired guns than college athletes. I guess expand on that.
So I always feel like when somebody's been recruited out of high school to your school, they go on visits.
Yep.
They maybe they're from the state, or there's a relationship that feels like it has grown.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually, they don't play necessarily right away. They have to wait. They practice and they're a backup, and then they earn their way in the field. And there's some sort of relationship there that you go, that's one of our guys. And not that Jeff Sims is not our guy, but
it's just different. It feels different.
He's in the era of NIL, like, you are a hired gun, like it's like the mercenaries back in the war days. Like, you're fighting for England as a Prussian soldier, but you're not English, and I just, it's sort of like there's something along those lines that you're never going to be viewed in the same light as somebody that has been, or, if you're brought in, then you spend years with us, that's different. But like, you were brought in, given money, given the keys to the kingdom without ever, quote unquote, doing much to earn it. You just showed up.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. There's less of a relationship there to me, that where, he's getting paid and he just sort of came in to be the guy. It's like, you just don't feel quite as bad for him as maybe it's like, oh, that's our guy.
Adrian Martinez,
or remember that quarterback from Omaha that we recruited for 4 years. And then finally he got here and he was the backup, and now he, like, you have a real feeling about this guy that is different than maybe a guy that's transfers in and he's getting paid. It's like, it's just different.
Yes. And I don't want to come off as like, I'm not necessarily begrudging Jeff Sims for getting paid. I'm not necessarily anti NIL or in any way. So I don't want it to come off like that, but it's different when it feels like the conversation for a lot of these, whether it's a Casey Thompson, a Jeff Sims, when the conversation starts with, well, how much are you going to pay me? Which let's not kid ourselves. That's where a lot of these conversations start. It just feels you're already off on a weird path a little bit. Yeah. And it's just going to take some time for me to get used to certain players coming to Nebraska for the reasons that you just said, where it's like they're coming here mainly because of the paycheck and not because they love Nebraska football. They came on multiple visits. They fell in love with the program and the city and the campus and all those kinds of things. Like, even I was just thinking about, like, what is it about the Amigos commercials? Because that's kind of it's made a lot of social media rounds and all that stuff. Like, Jeff Sims has got an NIL deal with Amigos, all those things. He's got like his combo meal and all that. It's a weird feeling It's a weird feeling for me growing up with Amigos. Like, I remember I went to a birthday party when I was like 5 at like the top floor of Amigos on like 56th and Old Cheney and Lincoln. Amigos is it's been in the stadium for years. Like, Amigos, Runza, Valentino's, these kinds of places are like ingrained a little bit in Nebraska culture. And it's just interesting for like Jeff Sims to show up and like, not only is he the starting quarterback, but he's like endorsing and repping something that has been a part of.
Yeah.
I don't know if
so there's two parts that here's where I'm going to see both sides. One, it's like, we kind of do need all of the Nebraska companies to sponsor guys so we can get them here.
Sure.
Right. So
sure.
We need that. But what's hard about doing that, and that's been a part of the intrigue of NIL, is like, they haven't ever performed here. So you're taking a risk always when you are paying a guy that you've never seen play for us. Like, he's never played it down, right? So you've never seen, you could look at his Georgia Tech tape and more than like a kid out of high school, but like,
you're right.
You're paying guys and giving them the keys before they've ever like in the old days, my only thought would be like, by the time you're on the field in the starter, you'd probably been like, you knew what you had almost.
We have
less of that now.
Yeah,
almost.
It is interesting. I mean, because the whole thing that's unfortunate about NIL is that it's flipped. It's like, I think, there's a reason now that there's a rookie wage scale, and certain quarterbacks come in and they're not making more than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because you got to kind of earn that.
Because before that, remember, it was like Sam Bradford was getting like $70 million. And
you go, how is Sam Bradford making
Tom
this?
Brady's not making. Tom Brady was not making what Bradford was getting.
Right.
Going, what is
just the whole notion of like earning something has kind of flipped on its head with NIL. And again, don't think like I'm all for these Nebraska-based companies to get involved. I mean, this is the reality of the world we live in now. Like, you have to get involved in this NIL world. So it's not like I'm like, I love that Amigos has done this, but at the same time, it just it adds to the
your sympathy for the player is less.
Yeah, and just feeling like it just feels weird. It just feels different, and I don't know.
It's a little bit like it's a little cart before the horse, but you just don't know. There's no other way to do it at this point. It's kind of where we are, but I just think it is. Everybody's kind of like this feels weird.
But the thing that's weird about it to me is like he's not the first one. You knew O'Shawn Mathis was getting a bag. Yeah. You knew Trey Palmer was getting a lot of money. You knew Casey Thompson was getting a lot of money. But for some reason, Jeff Sims has felt like the first one for me that it's just felt different with him. I don't know. I can't even. I'm willing to say it out loud. I can't really make heads or tails of it, but it just feels like he is one of the first. As we're still in the maiden voyage of this NIL world and getting used to it, he's one of the first Nebraska football players that because of the NIL and he's getting a lot of money, it just feels easier to criticize him. And I don't know why.
Well, it's also because he's not a freshman. Because he has been in other places and like he's played other places. So he's a hired gun. He really is a hired gun.
Yeah. Well, and I also was thinking about, like, there is an element of Rhule outsider. Yes. Frost was an insider. Yeah. So it felt like when Frost chose somebody, it was like your friend being like, trust me, Bill's cool. Bill, come here.
Bill's my guy.
Hey, dude, Bill's cool. Trust me. He's cool. Bill, hey, I want to introduce you to guys. Like, you're going to give Bill more of a shot than like somebody you don't know is like, hey, bring Bill over here. You're like, I don't know about Bill.
Yeah. I think that I was thinking the same thing though. Like, it's Rhule is new and is an outsider bringing in his hired gun.
And so it's just a lot
it just feels a little bit more weird. Like,
and I don't even
Jeff
know what
Sims is here. To me, Jeff Sims has always felt here. Or even Casey Thompson was a little bit closer.
Yes. Like, and I don't know if it's the Frost factor or not, but it's just, I don't know. I'm willing to just throw things out and say that I'm not totally sure why I feel this way, but I'm just throwing it out.
This is what we do. We throw it out here and we
talk it out. I don't know. We arrived,
figured it out.
We drove, and we officially are lost. So we're pulling into a parking lot and we got to get out the GPS. Let's move on to another topic. I heard Sip talk about this. No, not the fajitas at Chili's, but Sip talked about kind of the notion of patience with Rhule right now. And his line was like, I don't feel a lot of patience out there. And so I ask you, Bo Ruud, how would you characterize, take me into your heart, into your mind, into your thoughts, into your feelings, into your soul?
You want to go in?
I want to go in. Let me in.
Okay? Patience is a virtue. Yes. And I believe in it.
But how would you characterize and describe the patience in your mind as it pertains to Matt Rhule and the current Nebraska football situation? Because I think that's a layered question.
So I think we have to remember that you have to almost like block out the last 3 weeks of our life, because pre-Deion, pre these last two games, the right thing to do from all of our standpoint was like, give Matt Rhule, a minimum of however many years, 2-3 years minimum of like, let him build a program. This is what we brought him in for. He builds programs, steady. He's an incrementalist, he always says, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for me, that seems like the right approach. And Matt Rhule has seemingly been doing all the right things. So for me, when you say patience, I go, I can see that people are quickly running out of patience.
Yes.
But I would say, to me, still the right approach is patience, and it's give Matt Rhule time to do this thing. And as long as he keeps doing things seemingly right, which you can kind of tell just by the way he messages, the way he seems to be doing the right thing.
I agree.
If you see him doing the right things and the results aren't quite there yet, I would say patience is the right way to go. It's only if you say, Matt Rhule, what is he doing? Like if he starts going off the rails from seeming to be on the right track, then it's like patience can change. But to me, if he's doing the right things, patience is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think it's also interesting, though, when I was listening to his press conference on Monday, he was talking about, everything, and just kind of was like, hey, listen, man, this is kind of what you get when you hire me. Like, we build it to last, all that stuff. What do you think that means? Like, does that mean the not going in the portal for a lot of, I guess, because I was thinking about it, I was like, and he was sitting there like, this is what you get when you hire me. And I was like, okay, I think I understand, but I also kind of just for clarification, what do you mean by that?
I don't know. I don't know what he means by that. I don't know if that's the right answer to anything right now because,
no one wants to hear like, hey, this is what you're going to start 0-2. That's what you get when you hire. Like, but and I know that's not what he means.
He's not playing a bunch of freshmen. He's playing like some older guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wouldn't read into it too much.
No, I just was curious.
I think he's probably, like you're talking about I think he's trying to say he's trying to build something, and it's going to take time, and that's probably his way of saying.
I think I know what he means, but I just would like, sometimes it's nice. Sometimes you think and you ask a follow-up question and find out like, oh, I didn't know that's what you meant. I would love to be like, what exactly do you mean by that? Hey, this is what you get when you hire me. We want to build it to last. Like, I'd love to know specifically what he means by that. I think he means like development, recruit high school guys, bring guys, develop them for multiple years rather than bringing a bunch of guys and have them for a year, then have to start the process all over. I think that's what he means, but I'm not totally sure. I've said this a million times, so I don't want to be, redundant, but I did find it interesting how much I didn't have a tolerance for how the Minnesota game unfolded. I surprised myself. Sometimes you think how you'll feel, and then you get into a situation, you're like, wow, I didn't know that I would totally react to it like that. I didn't have the appetite for the woulda, coulda, shoulda shit. I didn't have an appetite of like, well, if this play, and this play, I didn't have an appetite for that. And that's not fair to Rhule. But I think as the more I thought about it, I want to see Nebraska get to the point where they're not beating themselves. And if they lose, they lose. But I want to see Nebraska get to where they're controlling the controllables. They're playing clean, good football. And if they lose, they could have played both those. They could have played that way and lost both games to start the season. But I would feel way better about it than than the other way. And I get that maybe that stuff doesn't happen overnight, but I think that's where I'm at. That's where my patience is kind of, that element is where the patience is kind of wrapping around it of like, where either I'm going to have a lot of patience or I don't think I'm going to have a lot of patience. The other thing I want to see is I also want to be able to see that it's coming. And by it, I mean like the team I want to see like, I can see where this program's going. I can see that in a year or two, and I don't.
That's right. I think that's right. And that's where we have to be a little bit patient, right? It's been 2 games. We got to let this team there's a multiple answers to that, but so I think patience, got to let it happen. It's kind of funny though. Like Scott Frost, his last 6 games of his first season, it seemed like it was coming.
Yes.
And maybe that's why we had more patience for him than probably people would care to remember. But like he went 0-6, and then we
finished 4-2.
4-2, about beat Ohio State, and it seemed and
almost beat Iowa at Iowa.
Yeah,
they beat Michigan State at home in the snow.
Yep. Beat Minnesota,
like hung 50 plus on Minnesota. You're right. If there was a moment where you're like, I think I can see it coming. And even though I'm trying to pull it up, God, look at people are like, are these guys seriously talking about Frost again? But even to start the 2019 season, they started 4-2. So there was a stretch where of, what would that be? 12 games where Nebraska went 8-4.
8-4 in 12 games.
So at the end of 2018 and the first 6 games of 2019, 8-4. And you're like, okay, I think.
And then COVID, which those things are maybe, and stuff all plays in factor into everything. But yeah, that is why, one of the reasons why it seemed like maybe like we always like, well, no, it's coming. We just gotta more time. So that's the tricky part about infinite patience. But like, I do think what you're saying about you need to see it coming. I think we can't worry about what happens with Frost. If we think we see it coming, you have to kind of go blinders.
No doubt.
But yeah, it does, like, it's just a little bit trickier, this program building in this, literally this new era, which I feel like is just kind of post-COVID almost, NIL post-COVID.
Yeah.
It's its own era of college football that I feel like patience is out, but typical program building is done with patience over a few years.
Yeah. And I do think some of the, see it coming, a lot of that goes back to the quarterback spot. I think that's the other thing that's a little bit concerning too, is like, if you feel like you got a big time QB, you're like, and you got him for a couple of years, you're like, okay, I see this.
Yeah. And I think that's what's hard is like, okay, you said control the controllables. I was like, that is exactly what I want to see too. The one caveat I put in there though is Jeff Sims. It was kind of like we kind of did, except for him.
It kind of feels like I can see it coming, except that spot has been so disruptive to the bad that it makes it really hard
to see anything else,
to see anything else, or even know what you're really.
What are we even looking at in offense?
Yeah, I don't know.
And so that's where it's like, I hate just crushing Jeff Sims because he, like I said, we've had 2 games. We got to let the kid
for sure
time to play, right? But man, it's the more and more I'm watching all these games, the more and more I feel like that quarterback position across college football is moving to the pro model, where if you don't got the guy, don't even try. Shouldn't say don't try.
No, I know what you're saying though.
Your chances of being successful and win championships are so slim. Like, you have to be perfect if you don't have a guy at quarterback.
Right.
You have to play perfect football all the time. I think that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's like, like these Iowa teams that win a lot of games. It's like they have to play perfect football.
Even Wisconsin over the years.
They have to play perfect, and they can't win the big one though, right? So if you don't got a guy, you have to be perfect. So it's like, you got to get a guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It gives you a little wiggle room of like, okay, we can be bad in a couple spots, but that guy cleans it up because he's so good.
That's the thing I was thinking about too. And again, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. It's been 2 freaking games. We got to let Jeff Sims do,
give him
show us a little more. But I also, the 2 games happened, and like, the turnovers and all that stuff. I think we can say, hey, we can't just write the book on Sims, but like the first couple chapters of the book like happened, and we saw them. But I've always felt like this, the vast majority of failed coaching tenures typically, not always, but typically have one thing in common, and it's they never got the quarterback right. Yeah. Even you could debate Martinez. Like, that's one of the most fascinating debates about Adrian Martinez is like, did what doomed Nebraska or doomed
Taylor
Frost?
Martinez?
No, Adrian Martinez.
Okay, I thought you were going back to Bo. Okay.
Yeah, like, I mean, you could even go back to him too, but so that's the thing too, is like, man, Sims, I think on paper is supposed to be the guy for 2 years.
Yeah.
And now 2 games in, you go, uh-oh. I mean, people are already wanting him to get benched. And then you look at like Bell West and Kalen isn't necessarily like lighting the world on fire. And you're like, okay, but are you really like, not you depend on a true freshman to come in year 2. So that's the other thing that gets a little uncomfortable right now with your patience of like wanting to see it coming. It's like, boy, well, that quarterback spot, you're like, where's that position at right now?
That's what's tricky is I think it's clear how important it is and how important it's going to be a real team to really compete. and we have been unable to find that guy since Zach Taylor, Joe Gans, and those guys were not big time recruits at all. You know, like those guys sort of like were. I almost think we got lucky that they turned out to be like just crafty, good players. But then like Taylor Martinez was maybe the worst thing to ever happen to Bo Pelini was like that game against Kansas State and Washington where he just his feet had flames from them for 4 quarters. And you almost go, look how good we were. And we never really found that again from him. Right. Those like 2 games were just like, ripped it up.
I'm trying to think. The last time Nebraska just had a stretch of like, whoa, quarterback play was, I mean, do you have to go back to the first handful of games of Taylor Martinez in 2010? Even though in 2012 he won, he might have been the Big Ten. He was either first team All Big Ten or might have been the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year.
Was he really?
Yeah, I mean his stats were always like crazy.
He was just like he was really good. Remember he played that one game against Oklahoma State where he was a great thrower.
41 of 51 for like almost 400 yards and outdueled Brandon Whedon and Justin Blackman.
Yeah, I think we have to put him in another category. Like he's an enigma in the sense that he was like so good and so bad. Yeah, like he was so good sometimes. Like those games where his legs were amazing, or the run he had against Wisconsin where he ran. It was one of the greatest plays I've ever seen.
Yes.
And so like he's not a bad quarterback, obviously. And he was good enough to maybe be like Big Ten Player of the Year. But like you're at the same time, you're like, oh man, like you just didn't know what you were gonna get.
He was the high ceiling and a low floor. Like his good was like holy crap. But his bad was also like holy crap. This is like,
and as soon as he kind of got an ankle rolled and he wasn't
lost his
much,
pop.
He kind of went, so he's a bit of an enigma, but I guess you could say you probably have to go with him, or you go, I don't know. I mean, even him, but like I said, it's a trust thing with me. Like, I don't know where my trust was with him.
No, it wasn't there really for me, but I think it's just an interesting thought that like, it's been a while since you felt like Nebraska had a stretch of like big time quarterback play.
Big time. I mean, I thought Tommy was tough.
Yeah, and Tommy won games.
Stretch, but I'm talking about a guy just like, we will win because of this guy. You know, I felt like, we had it, and we had Frazier, we had Crouch, we got totally spoiled, right?
I know. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, a lot of people have brought up, Anthony Grant versus Jeff Sims in terms of the punishments or lack thereof.
That's silly.
Yeah, I'm curious where you come out on that.
Quarterback, like they're all like, you got to hold Jeff Sims. Like, no, he's the quarterback. Like, if you have another quarterback better, like you will play him. Like, it's simple as that. It has nothing to do with needing to be like, well, everybody has to be treated equally. Like, no, you treat them how they need to be treated within the realm of your team. And if we didn't have another running back that could even play, Anthony Grant would still be in the game. Well, we've got Gabe Ervin and Ramir. That's the only reason Grant's out.
Well, that's I think a couple of things. I think you're spot on. I think it's when people bring that up, I get the spirit of what they're saying, but a couple of things, like Grant isn't the number one running back.
No.
Jeff Sims is. So like it's easier to sit a guy that isn't the number one guy. Exactly. Like you've said, at the quarterback position, there is an element of the quarterback position in terms of pulling them that's a big decision. It's got a lot of big influence on the team. Yeah. But I also, it took one of a very loyal listener. He listens to Chick and Nick. He listens to our pod. Brian Adams is one of the more loyal listeners, and he tweeted at me, and he tweeted at me and said, "Can you have Mazursky come talk to Jeff Sims the same way he talked to you that one game where you were having fumbles?" And it got me thinking. So for people that don't know, I mean, it was the Snowy Papillion game.
Yep.
We were sophomores in high school. It was quarterfinals of state, I think.
Yes.
And it was really snowy, really cold. I fumbled like 3 or 4 snaps in the first half. I go into the locker room. I am rattled. And Coach Chuck Mazursky, legendary high school coach at Lincoln Southeast, pulls me to the side. And I was anticipating him to like hey man, it's going to be okay. I still believe in you. Everybody believes in you. It's okay.
No.
I was bracing myself with that, and I wanted that. And instead he pulls me over, and it was like the second we got like away from everybody, we basically were nose to nose.
Yeah.
He got not an inch, I'm talking a centimeter from my face, and said, if you fumble one more fucking snap, you'll never play another down for me at Lincoln Southeast. You got me? And I was like, yes, sir. And you know what?
It was exactly what
I needed to hear. I didn't need to get coddled and all this stuff. So I do, to play devil's advocate of everything we're saying, I do also sometimes think we are too soft on people. And I do sometimes, like when I think of the coaches I played for, Bill Self, Dana Altman, Chuck Mazursky, those kinds of, like, one of the through lines between those people is they're very cutthroat. They're very stern. They're very like willing to, they don't really care about your feelings.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't even know if it's about feelings more than it is like he sort of tied his like all his, what's
Rhule? Hitched his wagon to him.
Wagon to Jeff Sims. I mean, there's no, nothing against Harburg.
That's the other thing I was going to say. We don't know what's behind it.
It's been even close between the backups and the starter. Like it's so far off that I don't think he can even consider it.
Agree. Really. I think that's the only conclusion I can have, and I think that's the only thing that makes it hard to go bench him. It's like, well, I don't know what Harburg looks like. I saw what Chubba looked like last year.
Yeah,
I'd rather take my chances with seeing what else Jeff Sims has in him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Rhule's also got to be like, he's got to weigh that, like, with what gives us the best chance to win. So, like, he can't do something that's going to give you a worse chance to win, right? It was sort of like the Cam Jurgens snapping thing. Like, they had a better chance to win with a bad snapping Jurgens than they did with pulling him.
Right.
And that was hard to stomach because you just were like, that doesn't feel right.
And it's always hard too, of like, where do you draw the line on being stern and cutthroat and you don't do it right, you're coming out, versus letting somebody play through mistakes? Because that's also a part of coaching too, is you have to allow, if someone's looking over their shoulder all the time and know if they mess up one time, they're out. That's hard to function. But I also think, when I think of whether some of the best cultures I've been around, whether it's Bill Self at Kansas basketball, Dana Altman at Creighton basketball, Chuck Mazursky and Lincoln, like, there was a feeling of like, you better do your job, or somebody else is going to come in, and
that's where you need to build depth, though. So
So I don't know.
Here's the thing: is like,
it just got me
a guy
thinking,
that can't, like, not to say you can be on a team that like you can't make a mistake. You can't. Like, and I think you're right about the playthrough, but you need to build depth to where you can make one mistake, but you keep making that mistake, you will not play.
Right.
It's the repeated mistakes. Like, he had multiple fumbles. He's had multiple bad picks. That is where, in a team that has depth, Nick, he's out.
Yeah.
If he's at Ohio State, Nick, I don't think he gets through the Minnesota game.
Right.
He throws those first couple bad picks, I think he's out. But that's the difference. Like, we are not Ohio State, and we don't have 3, 5-star quarterbacks sitting there that are just like, put me in, coach. We don't have that situation. So that's as much as it's a factor of what we are depth wise more than it is like what rules.
Exactly. I think that's what
he has to do.
That's what makes it hard. Sure, in a perfect world, I'm sure Rhule would say, yeah, I'd love to have a number 2 guy that I felt like was right there and I could just make a change. But I think that's what makes it so hard, because one of the next topics I wrote down was like, hey, what would you do with Jeff Sims? Because Rhule said in the Monday press conference, quote, Jeff's our starting quarterback. If this injury hadn't happened, he'd still be out there. That being said, we can't keep turning the ball over. But I read into that, like, as long as Sims is like healthy, he's still the guy. Now we'll see what ends up happening as the week progresses.
So did he not practice today?
I don't know if he practiced today.
Okay, because
I've been busy doing a bunch of other stuff.
And I was like, does that mean he's not going to be playing?
I know he didn't practice on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think that's what makes this. People want to make this situation very black and white of like, he messed up, you take him out, end of story. It's like, well, you do have to take into consideration who's behind him, how big of a gap there is. I mean, do you want to do what gives you the best chance to win, or do you want to send a message to Jeff Sims and the team? Because those two things might not be
I mean, if Sims
aligned.
has this ceiling that you just know you can tap into, and you got to do whatever you got to do to send the message to him, then maybe bench him so that he could come back and be better or whatever, right? But like at the same time, you go, man, you find out you think this is just what we got and he's the best we got, then you just got to play him.
Yeah. I just don't know. I mean, I wish I could give. I mean, I do think there's the injury could provide a way to kind of protect Sims. Like, hey, you didn't get bitched, you're hurt. To give Harburg a chance. There's an opportunity for that. It might
be good just to give him some live reps. Because
that's what I mean. You remember back in what was it in 2000 when with the Bobby Newcomb, Eric Crouch, and Coach Osborne planned on the third series, Bobby Newcomb was going to come in the game against Central Florida, and so you could. It might not be the worst idea in the world to throw Harburg in there a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish I had a stronger. It's just so hard to answer the question of do you bench Sims? What do you do with Sims? It's so hard because you just don't know what the gap is between him and Harburg.
Sims has played a lot of football. Harburg's played none. Harburg has not come out of fall camp as the guy who, oh man, he really protects the ball. It has not been that at all. I mean, his reputation is very athletic, cannon arm. Still learning how to see the field. It's all new to him.
Yeah.
He's a young pup still. It's hard to be confident that that's the right decision but see, at some point he needs to get some reps in to see what he is. But I would tell you, Jeff Sims has at least played a lot of football. Right. So in the end, it's sometimes you look has he? But he has, he's at least played real football.
Yeah. Yes. All right, coming up next, marriage advice that I would give Marcus Satterfield.
What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But first, got to tell you more about Pella Windows and Doors. Again, they're putting a new front door and a new little bay window on our home. Going through the whole process with them has been fantastic. Going to the showroom in Omaha was great. It really helps to be able to see and feel the window and the door. More so than necessarily just looking at something on a screen or in a magazine. They have showrooms in Omaha and Lincoln, and you can schedule a free in-home consultation. It is free. A Pella expert can come out, take a look at your wants and needs, and get together a game plan that'll work for you budget-wise and what you want out of this. Everybody at Pella is fantastic. Shouts out to Vince and the crew. Go to PellaOmaha.com. That's PellaOmaha.com. And go to shoot360/Lincoln.com. If you want to be a member, spots are filling up. Click the I'm interested form, okay? Click the I'm interested form. Boys, girls, skill levels of all ages. Everybody can be a member at Shoot360, and I'm telling you, you're going to love it. I cannot wait to I love the city of Lincoln. I love the community. I can't wait I'm so excited for what this could provide young kids in Lincoln. So go to shoot360.com/Lincoln. Okay, Bo. So one of the things that when I watch this offense right now, clearly it is not scoring points and it is not making a lot of explosive plays. And clearly Jeff Sims is struggling. But I think one of the things that, and you looked up Jeff Sims highlights from Georgia Tech, and we were talking afterwards, you said, man, Sims kind of looks comfortable here with Georgia Tech. He doesn't look like that at Nebraska right now. And I agree. Sims just doesn't look comfortable out there. And I don't know if it's they're trying to do a lot of different things. They're getting under center. They're getting out of the shotgun. There's a lot of motions. There's a lot of different things going on. They're running option. They're running, RPOs. They're doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And so, the old marriage saying of happy wife, happy life. I have developed a football saying. It's comfy QB. You scoring TDs.
That's pretty stupid.
But my point is, they gotta find a way. And this is also what is my hesitancy to. You don't like
you
comfy.
Spend all day thinking of that.
I thought about comfy QB. The points you will see, something like that.
You could have said happy QB, happy team, or something like
No, but
that.
I wanted to. So you have wife and life rhyme. I wanted QB and TD. A comfy QB, he score a TD.
So,
No,
I'll give it to you. I always give it to anybody who tries something. If you go for it, if you go for it, I go, great.
I will say worst marriage advice real quick. You know what advice I hate is
at the wedding?
No, just like marriage advice. Someone would give this to you at a wedding, like maybe like a maid of honor speech would like end up be like, never go to bed angry. I hate that advice. Nick Bahe here for going to bed angry sometimes, because guess what? Oftentimes you wake up the next day and you're like, that was stupid. I mean, that wasn't a big deal. Oh, wow. You're a never go to bed angry guy?
I think I'm coming around to your
I just like,
here's why. I would be a never go to bed angry person. And I'd be like, let's discuss rationally what just happened. But sometimes people aren't rational. And they just they just need time to.
Courtney, Bo just called you not rational.
I said other people.
I'm joking.
But really, I think some people just like they need time.
Yes.
Time to just.
Yeah. There's that. Oh, I see what you're saying. Some people just need time to just like
sleeping
but
on
I just
it,
think in general,
sleeping on it is like, oh yeah, it's not important. Like for me, I'd be like, let's figure out right now that it's not important.
I just think
but
in general, I mean, like 90% of arguments, like, are they really worth? Like, what does it? No. Did it really matter? Whatever you were arguing about, it probably didn't.
Of course not, Nick. But that's what being rational is all about.
So Nick Bahe here for going to bed angry. Just go to bed angry. You'll wake up, drink some coffee, and you're gonna be fine. Okay, that's that. There you go.
I think that's great advice.
You like that? Okay, so happy wife, happy life. Comfy QB. You scored a TD. I don't know why I deliver it like it's a housewife that doesn't know anything about football. But I guess my point is, I don't think Sims appears comfortable, and I still don't feel like they're necessarily running things that suit him great. Do you?
I don't know. I don't know what he likes to do. I don't know.
I just want to see more design runs. I want to see more of a focal point.
He's fine. It's just I just don't know. Is he good at option? I don't really want to see him run an option until he can prove to me he's good at ball handling. Because the option is ball handling.
Right.
It's decision making. Two things he hasn't shown me he can do. So I mean, I've said I just like simplicity, like simple, like those boots and things where he's like boom, and it's like to me it's an easy decision.
Reads.
Like when he's having to see the whole field, I just don't know he's seen it right now. And his command, he doesn't have the command. Like he doesn't feel like he owns it right now. Like he owns what everybody's doing, the timing of it, the whole picture. It feels like he's not there yet
at all. He just does not look like, contrastly, and some of it just could come back to just raw ability, but like Shedeur Sanders looks super calm and comfortable out there.
Yeah.
And Jeff Sims just doesn't. And I think Marcus Satterfield and some of the play calling can help him with that. I also thought Rhule made an interesting point in his press conference talking about how he does think practicing every day against Tony White in the 3-3-5 has actually hurt him. That it's not like it's gotten him out of a rhythm, because as we've seen, the 3-3-5 has given people problems. Like, I mean, there's a reason they had 8 sacks. They lead the nation in sacks right now.
Yeah.
Like, so it's hard if every day you're also not comfortable because you're looking at a 3-3-5 and you're not sure where it's coming. Blitzes are coming from.
Shouldn't the game be easier then?
Well, I'm just saying that you would think, but I'm also think about just like if you're also struggling Monday through Friday.
Oh, okay.
Throughout camp, it's hard to feel like, man, I'm really in a good place here.
That's what practice is for. Like you're supposed to like get good against those guys. You get to go against them every day. Like you should be good against them. So I don't know. I think I don't know.
But do you agree? I just don't think he looks comfortable. And I wish I just was surprised at the lack of designed runs we saw early in the game against Colorado.
They called him against Minnesota. I feel like we were running against.
I feel like they almost ran him more designed runs against Minnesota. And I don't really understand that. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But I just want to see what it looks like if he ever gets comfortable. And maybe this is all a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's early. It may take time, but
last thing before we get into kind of the Northern Illinois and different stuff, prediction and preview and all that. There's also been a lot of talk over the last couple of days, and we talked a ton about it in the recap pod of the whole Casey Thompson versus Jeff Sims thing of like, how could you have let Casey Thompson go? What the hell? I still am in that camp. I still think it's crazy that they let Casey Thompson leave. Hell, at this point, it's like they let Logan Smothers leave. Like, kind of, Smothers might be okay at this point. But to defend Rhule real quick on that, if I had to defend Rhule for how that went down in after spring ball of Casey leaving, let's never. Casey Thompson was hurt, didn't take a single rep in the entire spring.
Yep.
Casey Thompson has a history of injuries. He's been injury prone his whole career. Casey Thompson wasn't recruited by this staff. That matters. I also think it was clear that Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rhule, at least in the short term, they wanted a running quarterback.
Yep.
And I also think, right or wrong, I think they saw maybe some value in turning the page completely at that quarterback spot and getting their guy in there. And we see that all the time. People come in to, whether it's an athletic director, a business owner, whatever, and they want to put their stamp on it. They want to put their guys in place. And there's no more important spot to do that than the quarterback. So I think when you put it all like that, you go, okay, I can wrap my mind around. I still disagree with it, but I thought it's amazing. Even Chattel's been kind of writing about it too. I still disagree with it, but I can understand. Like, I think Rhule could come in here and explain his rationale, and I'd be like, I get it. I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like, bringing your own coaches versus, I get that, but, you're coaching a lot of guys that are left over here too. And in the end, it's about like evaluation to me. Like, watch some tape of him. Who do you like better? And I think they probably said, look at Jeff Sims. And I think it's this coach that we know signs off on him. I think to me, that's all it came down to. I think that's how I see people working, is they trust the people that they know and trust. Mm-hmm. And they're going to lean on that versus, if it's not super clear that Casey's that much better, maybe it wasn't. Like, maybe you put in their film, you're like, oh, Jeff did some good things. Yeah. I mean, Casey didn't win a ton of games. No, that's his downfall, was like, he was here and we won 4 games.
Right. I think what's hard about that, though, is that if you actually watch the games, I can't think of were there any losses last year where you walked away going,
that's Casey's
that was on Casey today?
That's why when I say evaluation matters, is like, my personal evaluation was like, I haven't watched Sims enough but my evaluation was, I know Casey Thompson's the guy I would trust. And so to me, Sims would have to really be like over and beyond good to be like a sure thing over Casey.
Yeah.
Which, that's the part I go, I don't know. It's evaluation.
Yeah. A couple of stats I want to throw at you where Nebraska's at here. Nebraska leads the nation in sacks. Leads the nation.
Yeah, that's one of those stats I wouldn't get too
interesting
with right now.
Because I remember you kind of were ho-hum on the pass rush, and I'm like, I mean, they're getting to people.
Because they're getting they're getting coverage sacks.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like, their sacks to me are,
and scheme sacks,
and
coverage sacks.
That will be limited as the year goes on. I want to see somebody win on a pass rush.
Right. The only guy, Polar Bear won at Minnesota, up the gut late, kind of just bull rushed a guy.
Yeah.
Reimer won by the sit your ass down to the running back who tried to take him on the first play of the third quarter against Colorado. Other than that, you're right. It's a lot of Riley Van Poppel. It was like a scheme got him down, or it's great coverage.
And it's like 6 seconds later, it's a sack. Like I'm talking like
okay,
1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. We're swarming hyenas.
Give it to you.
I'll give
you that.
Sometimes that happens to us when our quarterbacks drop back. And it's like 1,000, 2, 1,000, and I'm down. It's just like a defensive end just whips our guys so bad.
I'll give you that.
I'm not seeing.
Okay, this is interesting.
I want to see that out of our defensive linemen where we can win with a 4-man rush. Just like we're just better than you type of stuff. And we haven't done that in a long time.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I think Nelson did it once or twice last year. Like those kind of sacks, and we just haven't seen a lot of them for the last handful of years.
Yeah.
And to me, until we can do that, our defense is always going to be limited.
Okay. This is interesting I valid. I mean, it's obviously you're happy about it, but
I'm happy about it. But just to me, I think the numbers are not indicative of like reality.
Okay.
It's like, hey, it all worked out in the first 2 games. We got a lot of sacks,
right?
But like, that's not how you get sacks all season.
Got it. Love it. Nebraska leads the nation in turnovers. Not surprising. Mm-hmm. Nebraska's rush defense, 8th in the country.
That's good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Nebraska, 126th in the country in scoring offense. Yikes.
Is that bad?
That is bad. Only when I checked real quick before we turn on the mics, only 6 teams in all of college football have scored fewer points than Nebraska has. Not good.
Pretty bad.
Opponents are 8 for 8 scoring in the red zone against Nebraska's defense. 4 touchdowns, 4 field goals. 8 for 8
in the red zone.
Nebraska's defense, 120th in third down defense. They need to get better on third down.
Yeah, that's been their weak spot for whatever.
And you would think that's where a lot of sacks would happen.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
That's why I've been kind of like they're a little tricky with. They've given up a lot of third downs, but they've done a good job tackling, though. I think.
Yeah, I think they've been an excellent tackling team.
They've tackled well,
but they've just had a hard time, especially that third quarter or the first half of the Minnesota game. They struggled on third down a lot, but that needs to get better.
Yeah.
Nebraska's offense, 86th in the country in third down offense. They're completing 38% of their third downs. By the way, Nebraska.
So you're saying our situational football, which I've been harping on for years, third downs, turnovers, red zone turnovers.
Seriously, like those 3 things.
We haven't really had 2-minute drills, but we had one, and Jeff Sims ran out of bounds, and then we gave up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to throw a few stats at you, and then I'll ask you this, and we'll get into the Northern Illinois preview. What has surprised you, if you have to pick one thing, 2 things? 2 games into the Matt Rhule era, we sit, we think, we wonder, we read, we try to predict what it's going to look like. Well, we've watched 2 games. What surprised you? Has anything surprised you?
I think that the things that stand out the most to me is the 3-3-5, and our defense looks pleasantly solid, and that our quarterback play could be this distinguishingly bad.
Yeah.
And this effective, like it's like opened my eyes to the world of quarterback more than any other quarterback we've ever had. I know it's hard to say that because we've had some not good quarterback play, but I never have felt like this with our starter before. You know what I'm saying? Like Adrian, I didn't feel like this with Adrian.
No.
I didn't feel like this with Tommy, with
there
Taylor
were moments
Martinez.
Maybe with like Zach Lee, you felt like, ooh.
But
man.
he was at least, I was like, that guy's going to manage the game and he was going to try to do less.
Mm-hmm.
And Sims is unique in this. I'm like, because the egregious mistakes he's made, I just am like, whoa. I'm like, takes my breath away. Some of the mistakes. Like I almost couldn't believe the mistakes.
Oh, some of the, I mean, it's like, again, we said like
the picks are terrible picks.
And the fumble, they had 4 fumbles and none of them were forced.
Yeah.
None of them.
It's amazing to me. It's like, I mean, his first pick against, Minnesota where he Or that was it it was the first one that he threw at the goal line where we were going in to score
against Minnesota. Yeah.
Or was that a second?
Might have been the second one.
But I mean, that one was one that I went,
you're like, wow,
unbelievable.
Really?
Unbelievable.
Well, and then dropping shotgun snaps. It's hard to even what do you even say to that?
It's been such a bad first 2 games, but he's ran it actually pretty good. Like he's actually ran the ball well.
That's why I don't understand why they don't just run him.
He needs to become just a running back.
That's kind of honestly, that's kind of where I'm at with it. They need to do quarterback ISOs,
15 to 20 a game.
He's
doing some sort of zone package.
Yes.
I don't really want him running an option yet.
I don't trust him.
But just, let's just until he sees the field, he's running the ball.
That's what I think. I'm just run the hell out of that guy and then set up simple passes. And then maybe if you want to take some shots down the field, do that off of a play action and see if you whatever. I would say you hit on a bunch of, I wrote down that the quarterback play could be that poor. That has been surprising. The rush defense, to the good. 8th in the country, pretty good. I was one of the concerns of 3-3-5 stopping the run. This has been good.
Yeah.
I've been surprised at the overall sloppiness. And a lot of this is even just beyond the turnovers, but just procedure issues, false starts, having to call timeouts because you're going to get a delay a game. A part of huddling up is to avoid, you get a chance to slow down, huddle up, take a breath, go out there.
Is huddling new to all these kids,
but you would think
huddling's almost, it's weird.
It's somehow you would think huddling up would slow people down and you'd make fewer mistakes. I think it's made more mistakes for them. But do you understand? You would think huddle up, slow down, gather yourself, call the play, think about it, line up, get into your spot, run the play rather than, the breakneck speed of up tempo, go, and all those kinds of things. I've been surprised at the sloppiness of it.
I agree.
But yeah, it's been a little surprised to it at the physicality, and I think the tackling, the physicality, I think has been really good. That's been fun to see.
And the offensive line has not been.
They haven't been awful.
They have not been bad.
No.
I'm still a little bit wait and see with them.
Yeah,
with Teddy Penioas.
I know Teddy Penioas now needs to get out there and do his thing.
I've been a little disappointed. I mean, we've had some bad penalties on. Piper and Cochran. Those two. I'm waiting for those two to be the guys I want them to be. Because I don't think we can be a good line till they start playing like that.
Agree. So, okay, you ready to get into the Northern Illinois game real quick?
Let's do it.
So, Northern Illinois coming to town, night game, the home opener, first game of the Matt Rhule era. We'll see what the atmosphere is like. I bet it'll be electric on Saturday night. Northern Illinois is 1-1. They beat Boston College on the road in overtime, and then they followed that up by losing to Southern Illinois 14-11 at home. So they're 1-1 on the year. The thing about Northern Illinois is when I think of Northern Illinois, they've been perennially a pretty good Group of 5 football program.
Yeah, the fact they beat Boston College. We better have our freaking.
Oh, you ain't lying.
We better be ready. That's all I'm saying.
And the more I'm going to get into some different stuff that'll go. Oh man, but just real quick though, it's been last 20 seasons. Northern Illinois has more 10+ win seasons than Nebraska does over the last 20 years. Over the last 20 years, Northern Illinois has won 7 or more games, 14 of those seasons. So they won 9 games 2 years ago.
So I'm looking at their history. It looks like they played Georgia Tech in 2021, and they beat them. Was that Jeff Sims' team? I don't know. Let's see. Passing. No, it doesn't look like.
No Sims.
But Rocky Lombardi was.
But that's the other thing. Well, but the other thing, I mean, we know about it, but Northern Illinois beat Mike Riley's team in year 2. In Lincoln.
Yeah.
They have struggled the last few years. They were 3-9 last year. They went 0 in the COVID year. So they've somewhat struggled recently, but generally speaking, over the course of the last 2 decades, Northern Illinois has had a good winning football program.
Yeah.
You bring up Rocky Lombardi. There are 3 concerns that'll make you go, oh boy, you better buckle up. The first one is the fact that Rocky Lombardi at quarterback, he's not necessarily a great player, but this is his 6th year of college football. He had 3 years at Michigan State. This is his 3rd year at Northern Illinois. He only played 4 games last year because he hurt his hand, but he's an experienced quarterback who's played at Nebraska. He was the quarterback back in, I think, 2018 when Michigan State came to Lincoln. So he's played
Big Ten.
He's played in the Big Ten. He's played Ohio State. So you're not going to get one of those group of 5 quarterbacks that are going to walk in there and piss themselves at 90,000 people. No. He's a 6-year dude that's played in the Big Ten. He's played at Nebraska. That matters.
Yep.
The other 2 concerns. They returned 3 starters on their defensive line, 2 of which were all conference players last year.
Great.
And even Matt Rhule brought it up and said, you watch their D-line play, look out.
So this is something I maybe we need to touch on is like, since the Mike Riley era, especially the Frost era, our scheduling
brutal.
Is not like part of program building is you got to find a way. And the one thing that maybe we just have I think it's out of our control to a degree. It's like we can't catch a break with scheduling. Like, in some of it's like, we want to play Oklahoma and Colorado and these like better teams. And even though Colorado had been down for the 3 years we played them, but like we used to be able to play like bad team. Now let's start playing good teams. In the old days, you just like got to warm up.
Well, yeah.
And now we seemingly are always playing a Big Ten rival to start out. And then like the second game of the year is a group
of 5 team that's like,
it's group of 5
sneaky
that's good.
good.
And then it's like the Georgia Southerns of the world, where it's like they're kind of a tough, it's like we're not doing ourselves any. So it's like the 4th game of the year, we get like the scrub team. Like we should do the scrub. We should get it back to where we get our scrub warm-up games and be like, okay, get a win or 2, build some confidence, get out the kinks, get your terrible fumbles out against
because
them.
Maybe you could have played. Jeff Sims could have dropped a couple of snaps against Louisiana Tech, and you play through it and you win.
Yeah,
and a lot of this stuff could become off like we're making excuses. But like, look at just because I knew that they would. Look at Michigan. Their first 3 games of the year this year: East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green.
That's what I'm saying, though. But they like
last year
we never get to do that.
Last year, here's the first 3 games: Colorado State, Hawaii, Connecticut.
Every year, like that's what I'm saying. Why do they get that? Like who's building that in for them?
Well, that's the thing that I always have hated about the way football schedules is a lot of these games get set 10. Like the Oklahoma game was scheduled 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that. I like how college basketball, you kind of like make your schedule each year and you kind of know like, man, I don't know about our team.
It's hard.
Like last year, Greg McDermott knew he had a squad. So he's like, fuck it, let's go play some teams. You know what I mean? But if the years that they don't, they're like, we need Roast Beef State to come in and we'll pay you $200,000 and kick your ass. So I
only say this now after losing. We're like, I agree. I'm a competitive guy. When I was playing, I wanted to play USC.
Yeah. As a player, I hated when Pine Bluff came to town, and you're like, "This, come on."
I'm only saying this as a person who's like, I realistically want Nebraska to fix the program, and I feel like we just need to win some and build some confidence, momentum. And we've had maybe the worst starts to these seasons, and then like never a chance to build some momentum. And so it's almost sad that I have to speak like this, but we need to almost manufacture some of that.
Yeah. And now, but the thing that's interesting is with conference expansion and the Big Ten going
it's only going
to get harder. But you're right. Even like Riley, play BYU. Like BYU is one of those teams like, that's not an easy game.
Your opener, and we lose in a Hail Mary, and it's all downhill.
Right. So, that's where this, again, I don't want to make Northern Illinois out to be like a world beater. Them again, they were 3-9 last year, but again, generally speaking,
All I know is after Georgia Southern last year, like, I mean, Nick,
or Troy,
we were in a game, like we've lost to Troy, we've lost some of these games. Like I look past nobody anymore.
Oh yeah, if you think this game, if you're in your mind like Nebraska's going to blow the doors off Northern Illinois, like I don't think that.
If they can take a snap and we can't take a snap,
yeah,
they're going to be.
You're in trouble. But so Rocky Lombardi, 6-year quarterback. Defensive line, they returned 3 starters, 2 of which were all conference players. I don't care what any conference, like you're all conference, all MAC, like you're pretty good. Okay. And their entire starting offensive line is back from a year ago. Center, both guards, both tackles, all of them back. So when you think about a football team, you're good in the D line, you're experienced in the O line, and you got an experienced quarterback. That's a pretty good place to start. Where you're going, okay, could you go on the road and make something happen? Well, they did at Boston College.
Probably one of the reasons why they did win a
yes. So you can hang in, maybe you can hang in there in the trenches. You got a quarterback that isn't necessarily going to pee his pants. So you look at this game, Nebraska is favored by 11. The over-under total is 43. So the games, they're thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't know what you're seeing. It'll be interesting to see what happens at quarterback. My guess is Sims plays. I don't know. But to me, given everything we just said, given their experience at quarterback and experience in the lines, how good they are on the D-line, and then Nebraska's issue on offense and at the quarterback spot, I think this game could be actually a little stressful. I'm bracing myself for a stressful day. I do think Nebraska's defense is going to ultimately rule the day. I was listening to Northern Illinois' play-by-play voice in an interview with Damon and Ravi Lula on Hurrdat. Northern Illinois wants to run the ball. I think Nebraska is going to be able to stop their running game. Again, we said Huskers eighth ranked rush defense in the nation. So I think it's a kind of an ugly game. I think Nebraska pulls away late. I'm going to say Nebraska wins 24-10, but I think it's pretty stressful.
I like that. I think that's right. I think it's. I mean, do I see us scoring a lot of points? Like probably not. I see it as like a first half, like. We're just going to be, I think it will come, but I think it's going to be one of those first quarters where the fans are groaning.
I was
like audibly groaning.
I was just going to say, what do you think what's the vibe? Like Nebraska goes 3 and out on the first drive.
It's North Dakota last year. North Dakota, we came out and the fans were just like, what is this? It was one of the things where you kind of start going, we won that game, but we lost that game. For the coaching staff, like for Frost, he lost that game.
Okay, so that's it. But so you're expecting that for Rhule's first game? Because I think I'm kind of with you, but it's like, wow, damn, it's already there. Oh, we're already in the murmur.
Those 2 losses that we just had, were so bad and so embarrassing to our fan base.
Yeah.
That if we play like that, doesn't mean we won't win, but if we play like that for the start of that game, because it's about how we start. If we start and we're looking good, fans will be happy. But if that first quarter is like that, you're going to hear the groans.
I think the main source of groans are going to come from how Jeff Sims plays.
Yes.
I think if the defense struggles, I think people are not going to necessarily groan about it and all that. But if Jeff Sims goes out and struggles, the murmurs, dare I say, the boo birds could come out.
Oh, yeah.
Which is sad to say, but I think I'm with you. We've been around this thing enough in a while. You actually were out there on the field playing. You know how this thing goes.
I take note every game. I go to most of them, and I get there for the tunnel walk. That's usually right. I try to get in right before the tunnel walk. It's about 8-9 minutes before the game starts. And like 7 minutes and something, it usually starts, right? And when our team is doing well, playing good, the tunnel walk is loud. It's amazing. When our fans are kind of going into the hole, like this season is a bust and this staff is like, it's pretty polite.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of
kind of going through the motions.
It's going through the motions. It's almost like I'm not going to invest in this because I don't know what I'm going to get today, and I can't allow another heartbreaking. But then it's like we're we win a game or two and then it's back. And then, it's like, or Oklahoma or Michigan come and they lose their mind. Like,
yeah,
it always happens. Like, it goes through the ebbs and flows. But it was the first time the last couple of years where I saw like these moments where I was like, ooh, the fans are being guarded. They're being guarded, and you can tell during the tongue walk.
So no, I'll be curious what that's like on Saturday night, because you would have thought on paper heading in, boy, Matt Rhule's first tunnel walk, when those gates open and he's leading them out, people are going to be pretty excited. I don't know. I mean, I could see them being excited for that, but I'm with you. I think there could be a little more arms folded for how the game unfolds than you think.
It's my prediction. My prediction is they're going to be excited for a game. It's going to be a night game. They're going to have some drinks in their system.
Yeah, they're going to be turned up.
It won't be super polite. It'll still be fun. The people, but it may not be. Like I said, I'm more predicting it's going to be a little reserved. In that first quarter, if they make a bad turnover, the groans will be immediate. If they do a bad turnover, it won't be, it's okay.
Bad turnover,
it'll be, I told you, you got to pull him. Like, those guys will be ready.
Yeah. That's
crazy. It's 10 beers in at a 6 o'clock game.
It's just crazy to think that this is where things are already at.
You can't lose like that. And we were so bad enough.
You can't lose like that, and you can't have your quarterback perform like that.
That's it. Because the quarterback represents hope.
Right.
If he's good, you got a chance. If he plays like that, you don't have a chance. And so that's what's tricky about it, is like, Sims is still talented enough. You've seen with his legs, you go, ooh. But like, you're starting to lose hope. Right, because of his play, and that's what he's got to give a solid performance.
I tell you what, I was going to say, it's a big, if Sim starts, let me ask you this: if Harburg starts, are people a little less apt to get their groan game right and their murmur game right?
Murmur.
What?
I don't know. I don't think it matters as much.
Okay.
I don't think Harburg has. I don't know if he's got that kind of pull yet.
I don't know either. It's satisfied. When people want blood, fans want blood, and they want.
It's less bloody if it's a Nebraska kid,
or just they've gotten their change that they wanted.
Yeah, they want. Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's. The question is, if Harburg plays because Sims is not there, he does well.
Then it could be Heine time. Then we could see some Heineken commercials. Hi, I'm Heinrich Harburg. Keep your hands off my Heine. And while you're at it, drink a Heineken. Heineken. Drink responsibly.
Yeah.
I think there you go.
That's it.
Okay. If Heine plays and plays well, do we drink a Heineken on a pod?
If Heine gets the win, we're drinking a Heineken in the next pod. Absolutely.
Oh, that sounds terrific right now. That sounds terrific right now. Well, we kept it an hour and
the 15. Next wine pod will be a Heine pod.
I would be I'm not gonna lie, I'd be very excited to drink a Heine pod.
A Heine pod if he gets us the W.
Now I kind of hope Heine gets in there and does this thing.
Oh, I do too. This is gonna be
I could
great.
go for a nice Heine.
Heine.
I'm a Heine. You're kind of a Heine guy.
I am, but get your hands off my Heine.
Hey, get your hands off my Heine. Okay, that's it. We'll stop talking about Heinies. We'll be back for the game recap pod. We'll see what happens. Game number 3, Nebraska, Northern Illinois. We should probably go get some Heinies in anticipation of our Heine pod.
Yeah,
let's go.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.